On December 8th, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, sued to block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of video game publisher Activision Blizzard. Now, the FTC claims that the massive deal would allow the Washington tech giant to suppress competitors in the video game industry in violation of federal antitrust laws. Some of Activision Blizzard's most popular video games include Candy Crush, Call of Duty, and a number of other titles you've probably heard of. Now, before we get into the meat of the video, I want to give a quick disclaimer. This is not legal advice. If you have legal questions, then talk to a lawyer. Now, in this video, we're actually going to dive into the complaint that the FTC filed against Microsoft to block that acquisition. But before we do that, it's important to understand a little bit of background about the video game industry. Today, the video game industry is actually larger than the music and movie industries combined. In 2022, the gaming industry generated nearly $197 billion in global revenue. Now, let's talk about the console wars. In recent years, Microsoft's Xbox has battled Sony's PlayStation for dominance in the video game console market, at least the high end. You also have Nintendo, but it produces a cheaper system that is less graphically powerful and therefore not a true competitor to the high end of that market. The quality of exclusive video game titles that you can play on one console or the other, that's the Xbox or the PlayStation, is a major factor that drives sales of one console versus the other one. So what that means is that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the largest independent third-party producer of video games at the high-end level, could give Microsoft a major competitive advantage, almost a monopolistic advantage over Sony and, to a lesser degree, Nintendo in the production of video games. On December 8th, however, the FTC said, "Not so fast, Microsoft," when it filed a lawsuit in an administrative FTC court against Microsoft seeking to block the company's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So let's take a look at some of the highlights from the complaint against Microsoft that the FTC filed. As you can see here, this is the redacted public version of the FTC's complaint. And I've made some notes here. So in paragraph number 1, it says, Microsoft and Sony control the market for high-performance video game consoles. The number of independent console companies capable of developing standout video games for the consoles has contracted, has gotten smaller, with only a small group of firms commanding that space today. And here I've listed the 6 largest independent companies that make these top-tier video games. Activision Blizzard is by far the largest of these, followed by Electronic Arts, the creator of the Madden NFL football title and various other games, especially sports games. Epic Games, Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, and Take-Two Interactive are the other major players in that market. Of course, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo do make their own exclusive titles as well. Now, what I found interesting here in paragraph number 1 is the fact that if consummated, the proposed acquisition would be the largest in history of the video game industry and the largest of Microsoft's history. That shows you how big the stakes are in the video game industry and how much money they stand to gain. The winner will stand to gain in this competition in the console wars. It goes on to say, with control of Activision's content, however, Microsoft would have the ability and increased incentive to withhold or degrade Activision's content in ways that substantially lessen competition, including competition or product quality, price, and innovation. Now, I'm not exactly sure what it's meaning here when it refers to degrade Activision's content. I suppose perhaps that means that Microsoft might let some titles that are on multiple platforms that are on the PlayStation, for example, that it will not update and improve that title because it is trying to put the PlayStation out of business. I really don't know what it means by degrade Activision's content, but I can only imagine that it has something to do with producing or letting the games that are already existing on multiple consoles that Activision made just die a slow, painful death of no software updates, no improvements. Then moving on to paragraph number 3, it states that AAA games are costly to produce because of the creative talent, budgets, and time required for development. And I just made a note here in the margin, that's exactly why these startups, unlike many other industries that are less capital intensive, that's why you don't see a lot of small startup bootstrapped companies making these top tier games, because they're like movies. They just cost so much to produce and develop. Oftentimes they require more manpower, more money to produce than a full length movie. So that's why the FTC is obviously concerned about this monopoly, as there is consolidation in the video game industry. In paragraph 7, it talks about the Call of Duty series. It says, by any measure, Call of Duty is a leading AAA franchise. It is one of the most successful console game franchises ever. From its launch in 2003 up through 2020, it generated $27 billion in revenue, that franchise alone, which is remarkable. Now, in my opinion, Call of Duty, that franchise, is not as good as it used to be, because they're just recycling old material for new consoles, and it's just the same formula. It's gotten a little bit stale, so I don't expect to see a lot of growth in that franchise, but you never know. Now, going down to here in paragraph number 9, it says that Microsoft has acquired over 10 third-party studios and their titles in recent years to expand its offering. Microsoft has frequently made those acquired titles exclusive to its own consoles and/or subscription services, eliminating the opportunity for consumers to play those titles on rival products or services. And then paragraph 10 goes on to state, the proposed acquisition is reasonably likely to substantially lessen competition or tend to create a monopoly in multiple markets, because it will create a combined firm with the ability and increased incentive to use its control of Activision titles to disadvantage Microsoft's competitors. Now, I took that to mean that the FTC is really concerned about Microsoft taking all of Activision's video game library and Blizzard's video game library and making it exclusive to the Xbox. If that were to happen, that would be a major blow to the PlayStation brand, to the console sales. Not as many people would want to obviously buy a PlayStation, because they could not play their favorite games like Call of Duty on the PlayStation. They would have to go buy an Xbox. So I think that's the concern that the FTC is expressing here in this complaint. Now, moving on to page 21, we finally get to the alleged legal violation here. As you see in count number 1, illegal acquisition. In paragraph 124 here on the page 21, you can see the FTC is alleging that Microsoft has violated 2 different laws. First, Section 7 of the Clayton Act, as amended at Title 15, United States Code, Section 18. And then second, an unfair method of competition that violates Section 5 of the FTC Act, as amended at Title 15, United States Code, Section 45. And so I'm not going to go in depth or even really talk about those laws in this video, but if you like this video and you want to learn more about those laws, then let me know in the comment section below, and make sure to give this video a like. Now, finally, you might be asking, what is going to happen next? What is the next step in this lawsuit? Well, as you can see here on page 22, the notice page, the next step in this lawsuit is that the court will hold an evidentiary hearing on the second day of August in 2023. You can also see here in the second paragraph of the notice section, it states that the Microsoft will have an opportunity to file with the commission, that's the FTC, an answer to this complaint on or before the 14th day of after service of it upon you. So there you go. So here in the second paragraph of the notice section, it states that Microsoft will have the opportunity within 14 days of receiving service of this complaint on December 8th to file its own answer responding to the allegations in this complaint. That's where Microsoft will lay out a overview of its defense in this case. And so if you are interested in seeing Microsoft's answer in this lawsuit, then leave a comment below letting me know, and I'll certainly cover that in another video. And then moving on, we've got the notice of contemplated relief here on page 23, and it states the first form of relief that the FTC is seeking is, of course, a prohibition against any transaction between Microsoft and Activision that combines their businesses, except as may be approved by the commission. And then I'm not going to read these other forms of relief that they're seeking, but that number one is the big one that has made headlines in the news recently. So anyways, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, let me know by giving it a like. And if you'd like to see more videos about the FTC's lawsuit against Microsoft over the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, then hit that subscribe button below and turn the bell notification icon on. And of course, as always, thank you for watching.